right, so thank you very much for your attention. I think I've given some general introduction about our current projects, about the special offers, and I'm sure you'll take advantage of all those things. Okay, so today's presentation is called Meet Wider World. As I've already mentioned, it's one of my favorite Pearson resources for teaching teenagers. I remember some 3 years ago when it first appeared in Ukraine, I couldn't believe my eyes because I think it was the first time I saw a resource for teaching younger teenagers with the BBC sign on it. I used to work with Speak Out for a long time. Speak Out is a great resource for teaching adult learners, which included BBC video content. Wider World was the first resource designed for younger teenagers, teaching younger teens aged 11 to 15, which contained BBC content, and it's absolutely fantastic because modern teenagers are difficult to motivate, and they are more demanding, if you wish. So it's a great resource for teaching a new generation of students, the so-called Generation Z students. So Wider World is a 5-level course. The most popular levels, in Ukraine, globally, are levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you teach at state schools, it corresponds to this lower secondary sector, years 5, 6, 7, and 8 at school, like specialized schools, which take level per academic year. However, there is also a starter level available. So if, for example, you appear to have a group of students who start learning English in year 4 or 5, like as a second language, you can also have a look at the starter level of Wider World. Today, I will go over 3 features of this resource, which I find particularly crucial when you are choosing a resource and are expecting best possible results. So there is a lot which we can discuss about this resource. However, I have only time to go over 3 things, 3 aspects of this course, which I find fascinating. I will use level 2 of Wider World, which is for year 6 at school, to illustrate some aspects, those aspects which I'm going to cover. So, and again, if you have questions, about the course, please do write them in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them later. So, the first feature, the first thing about Wider World, which I find absolutely, breathtaking, is its authenticity. The course is so bright. The course is so visually appealing. It's very modern. So it contains the highest quality BBC footage, BBC video content. And authenticity of Wider World, it's about being meaningful for students, it's about relevance, it's about age appropriacy, because the choice of topics, the way the authors approached, topics from this, student-friendly, teenage-friendly angle and point of view is amazing. So I will just explain what I mean. I've collected some just examples to illustrate this, issue of authenticity in Wider World. So interaction with real life content. So all the facts, people, phenomena which are covered in this resource, they are real. You can, stretch out your hand and search more about that, read more, watch more, and so on. And we start as simple as that from the covers. So have a look at this amazing architecture. So maybe we have people here who have visited that place. So it's in the Netherlands. Do we have somebody who saw these wonderful buildings with your own eyes? No? All right. So actually, they are called the Curious Cube houses. Wonderful. They are in Netherlands, the Netherlands. And I can't imagine, well, people live there. I can't imagine what it's like to live in a house like this. I hope the floor is like even and you're not sliding down. However, I can, well, clearly, well, imagine my students, starting a discussion about that because they like such unusual things. So actually, this is what students see on the cover of the first level of Wider World. And actually, when you open the book, you can see what the house looks like from inside. Looks very modern, very bright, very normal. And actually, the question here is, well, that's how level 1 starts. Well, it's even before unit 1. Would you like to live in a house like that? Could you give me a sign like yes or no if you would like to live in a house like that? I would probably, yes, says Lydia. Yes, okay. No. Well, I'm not sure about living. I would probably like to work in an office like that. So it's cool to it's very jolly kind of office. But well, anyway, thank you very much. So we move on and just have a look at this, splash of colors. Any idea what they are? Looks like, well, spices. Actually, the funny thing is these powders, they are sold India. Thank you very much, Natalia. They are sold in spice shops in India. However, they are not spices. They are paints for fabrics or dyes. Okay, so you probably remember those bright Indian, well, the outfits, the sari things, okay, very colorful and bright. Do you have any idea what these powders are made of? How can you get colors as bright as that? Looks like they're artificial. I was plants. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you. So I checked that because I didn't know that myself. And it appears, yeah, they are made from natural things, natural extracts like plants, berries, even crushed stones, some tree bark, and well, I can't imagine how they make that. So smart people live, well, in India. And that's actually the cover of Wider World too. We move on. That's my favorite. I would love to visit that place, and I regret that I've been to Texas, the United States, long time ago, but somehow I missed my chance. So I have not visited that place. So it's in Texas, the so-called the eccentric Cadillac Ranch. So in the 70s, two designers started this installation, this project of half-buried Cadillac cars. And the funny thing is, it's not far from this famous Route 67 in the United States. The funny thing is everybody is allowed to spray their own graffiti. It's legal, so nobody will fine you for that. And the good question here is, what would you paint? Imagine you ask your teenagers, they would definitely have lots of ideas. What would be your message to the world? Graffitis are usually, well, short and like up to the point. What would you write? Trident, thank you. I love that. So some Ukrainian symbol, cool. Okay, happiness. Okay, thank you very much. So wonderful place. Would love to visit that. Love. Okay, peace. And that's the cover of Wider World Level 3 and the short, brief introduction. Well, back to authenticity. It's just the very start of the course, the cover basically. But if you want, you can Google and search more information about that. You can show your students, there are lots of short videos on YouTube about this Cadillac Ranch. So that's this touch and interaction with real things out there. And finally, this one is amazing. It's this umbrella promenade in, can you guess the country? Maybe you've traveled and you've seen that place with your own eyes. Spain, good guess. Very close to Spain. It's Portugal. It's Portugal, Agueda. Well, I can't pronounce this place correctly. So these umbrella promenades are trendy now, right? I know that. I think we've got some places like this around Ukraine. Have a look at the question here. Is there anything similar in your town? So we have people from different Lviv, Uzhgorod, Sumy. You've got one in Sumy, cool. In Kiev, I don't know. Do we have a street like that in Kiev? Probably Zhytomyr. Actually, Khmelnytsky, cool. Okay. In Ternopil. Actually, what I remember there used to be, well, these streets in Lviv and Zhytomyr. Appears Odessa, yeah, somebody told me you've got something like this in Odessa. Kharkiv, cool. Okay. So, and again, that's the cover of the fourth level of Wider World. So that's what I just wanted to give you this feel, to share this feeling with you of like how bright and how colorful, how just visually appealing this course is. Moving on and just developing the same issue of authenticity, topics. The topics must be, well, age appropriate, meaningful and relevant, right, to this particular age group, younger teenagers. A couple of examples from level 2 of Wider World. Like, for example, have a look here, the latest news in education, right? So probably there was something about education covered in the unit. And well, that's important. Well, we usually teach some blocks of vocab connected with education, like school subjects, some verbs, adjectives describing students, and so on. However, it's more interesting for students, teachers, right, than students. Because speaking about teenagers, level 2, Wider World is for year 6. I can see my class of teens, looking like this. Imagine I start this discussion, guys, let's discuss the latest news in education. They would be bored to death. Well, let's face the truth. So in Wider World, they approach this from a different angle. So yes, so we're now going to look at some pieces of news from the area of education, but they're very interesting. Students would love that. For example, just some examples. What about this one? Police to get pupils out of bed? Can you imagine that? Ignore the gaps, it's not important now. So, another UK school says it's going to send ex-police officers to get pupils out of bed. Apparently, the officers are going to take lazy students to schools by cars. So this way, pupils will not miss any lessons. So they will do better in the exams. So, and here again, yes, it's about education. It's about being good students, not missing classes and so on. However, students would definitely respond to that. They would have, something to share with a teacher, at least emotions, whether they agree, whether they like this idea or not. Another example, lunchbox policy. Okay, so imagine at some schools in the United Kingdom, in Australia, teachers started lunch raids. They started inspecting students' lunch boxes and they started throwing unhealthy snacks away. As it says here, pupils and their parents felt shocked. And again, here it's very natural that you would ask your teenage students, what do they think about such a trend in education and so on. So I can see lots of different options of how to extend that class voting. Okay, so they could even start a similar project at their school, for example, against unhealthy snacks and so on. So it was just a brief, and the most important thing, actually, it appears to be true. I was not sure myself whether these news are, fake things or not. I just Googled and checked, and so I've got some pieces of information about same things on BBC News website. And you see here is another online newspaper about lunchbox policy. So back to authenticity. Yeah, it's very teenage friendly, very like fun kind of information about education, but it's true. And you can reach out, read more. And actually, well, that's true, that's real, that's authentic. Well, cool. And actually, it's just a part of a revision lesson. So which comes at the end of the unit. Here, it's both about, well, some interesting trends in education, well, unusual and you saw those gaps in the text. Students are also revising verb forms. So I think it's cool. Well, another topic, a never-ending story. Generation gap problems between teenagers, parents, and so on. Usually, it's approached in such a way that, well, teenagers behave in a different way that parents expect. Parents are irritated and, well, it causes problems. However, in the wider world, they approach the same topic from a more teenage-friendly way. So what they did, they just put it upside down. So can you guess the top 3 annoying things that not teenagers, parents do from the teenagers' point of view? So they've collected teenagers' opinions, about like what they find irritating about their parents. And there is this top 3 most irritating things, annoying things. Can you guess the top number 1 thing which annoys teens? Control homework. Okay. Calling them every 5 minutes. Yeah, control, super control. Now I'll show you the answers. Parents are always right. True. In the parents' eyes, right? So have a look here. The top number 1 annoying thing, as simple as that, parents say the same thing again and again. So they keep repeating things. Of course, teenagers, they forget things, they ignore things, but they hear you. And well, see, it's very annoying. The second one, parents are embarrassing with teenagers' friends. So sometimes parents, just behave as if they're very cool. They start using some colloquial language with their kids' friends, and teenagers don't like it. Like, your parents behave appropriately, right? And number 3, they follow their kids on different messengers, Facebook pages, to see what's happening, and teenagers apparently don't like that, which is, well, quite natural. Okay, it's just an example from a reading lesson. So there is a nice reading text with lots of pre-reading, post-reading, activities, work. However, the topic, the how they approach this topic, it's very, very interesting, very student friendly. Okay. And just I've got one more example here. I find it very fascinating. I've got some examples, some works of a street artist. You can recognize probably. He's very famous. He's a British street artist who is world famous, who is considered to be iconic, I would say, street artist. I'm sure your teenage students know his name. Not many people know his face. I think he's hiding this. Banksy, thank you, Angelica. Yes, Banksy, absolutely correct. So, and again, a topic of art is approached this way, okay? So at the end of each level of Wider World, there is a wonderful collection of clear lessons which cover different areas like art, geography, literature, history, medicine even. So here, the art, again, is covered from this teenage, point of view. It's not just classical art, but street art. And I've learned some new words, which I didn't know before. For example, what Banksy does, this style of painting is called stencil graffiti. There is traditional graffiti. This one is called stencil. In Ukrainian, it's like trafaretne graffiti. Well, usually it's quicker, just takes less time, but I think it's beautiful. no matter what. Okay, and the project, wonderful project for teenagers. So they're supposed to do some research and create something about a street artist or street art in their country. And here I've got a very nice website. I want to share it with you. You can use it with your students if you want. I'm not sure about your towns and, well, places you come from. In Kiev, we have a trend now. So murals are very, very popular. These huge paintings, like pictures on the side of the buildings. I think I saw some murals in Lviv. I remember there was something wonderful. I remember from Kamenets-Podilsk. So there is a global trend, you know. So what I came across by accidental is there is a website called Kiev Murals, the murals of Kiev. You just Google, you will easily find that. And it's very simple. You can try it with your students, even if you live not in Kiev. So there is this interactive map of Kiev with when you click on a location, you can see the mural, and they give you the address of that building, so you can go and see it with your own eyes. So, but here, back to authenticity, you can explore this, like browse this website with your students, let them do it, let them try it. And again, I think this is the reality which you will bring into your classroom. And well, it costs nothing, actually. It's out there. I'm sure there are websites like that, not only about Kiev. Some of my colleagues mentioned, websites which give you interactive maps with murals of New York and London, so you can explore more yourself. So I think that's great. Okay, so authenticity, very student-friendly, relevant, motivating. We've looked at the choice of topic, at the way the authors approached these topics. And finally, videos. Well, it's a big part of, which contributes a lot to create an authentic learning environment in your classroom. Today's generation is a video generation. They learn from YouTube. They if they want to know an answer, they usually, don't ask a parent or a teacher. They just Google and watch how to, manuals, these tutorials on YouTube. So the more videos you show, well, in your lessons, the more students like your lessons. And in Wider World, there is a wonderful collection of the highest quality BBC video content. There are different types of videos in Wider World. Entertaining teenage drama, just different episodes. When something is happening, they have love problems, school problems, they argue with their parents, they meet new friends. So, and kids usually, they like following this, adventures of their peers just in videos. Plus, there are fantastic BBC culture videos, which usually come at the end, like finalizing every unit. One of my favorite types of videos here, I just love them, are the so-called Vox Pops, BBC Vox Pops. They are short clips, like interviews with real people taken in the streets of London, and that's very authentic, because people come from different backgrounds, different accents, different countries, and what they do, they are asked simple questions like, what did you have for breakfast? Like, have you ever traveled to Egypt? And they answer without any preparation. So students are exposed to real world and real life. That's you can kind of even breathe in this London air. So I will show you today just one short example of what Vox Pop's video is like for you to understand what quality and what I'm talking about. You will hear some people answering the same question, very simple. What are the best and the worst things about the place where you live? By the way, can you guess the grammar topic which students probably covered like before watching these Vox Pops? So because it's all linked in the course. So some grammar is covered, and afterwards students comparatives. Yes, thank you very much, Olga. So probably degrees of comparison. So they've covered that, they've learned some new vocab, and now they're getting ready for this production stage when they're supposed to discuss and compare different things. These videos are a great model for your students. Your task will be very simple. You will now watch the video. Try to remember the countries people come from, okay? So you'll see, well, the names of the countries on the screen. Just try to remember. Try not to cheat. Try not to write them down. Try to remember the countries people come from, all right? I'll be back soon. Let's watch the video.
We'd like to be in the hotspot and all the clubbing and all that sort of thing. You don't get that in Launceston at all. So be quiet.
Yeah, a little bit quiet in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about New York would be the subways that you have to take to get to 42nd Street, which are very loud and very dirty.
All right, I see that some people, well, while watching actually, because I saw everything perfectly well, the video for me was okay. As far as I understand, some of you have watched the clip, right? Some of you have not. Sorry about that. So some answers are here: Tasmania, the United States, okay. The USA. Okay, so the answer is here. Actually, those of you who were lucky enough to watch this video piece, so you probably recognize the faces. People were from different countries. Four actually were mentioned: the United States, Canada, the Netherlands, and Tasmania. You probably heard, well, the different Englishes they used, right? The different accents. And even, you know, it was interesting to notice the difference. For example, this guy, Jamie from the United States, he said subway, and a girl from the Netherlands who was describing London, she said underground. So even, you know, this choice of words depending where people come from. And well, do you remember the best thing about Tasmania, which they mentioned, this couple here? I think it's wilderness. The wilderness is the best thing about Tasmania. All right, so sorry if you could not see the video, so it's a technical issue I could not change. Hopefully next time. So it's actually teenagers love these videos a lot. So that's what I can say from the feedback I receive from teachers and teenagers themselves. They're very real, and they give really good examples and models of how to interact, how to answer certain questions. So wonderful video resources in wider world. That's great. Okay, so summing up, we've had a look at the first aspect of this resource which I find particularly important, especially when we speak about teaching modern teenagers, who aspire for more, who access information in a different way. So Wider Worlds will be a perfect choice because it's really, really authentic. The second feature of this resource, which I want to talk about today, is exam preparation. So it's something which we don't usually think about when we speak about resource for lower secondary sector. Usually exam prep comes, in the spotlight when we think about years 9, 10, and 11 at school. But I personally believe that the earlier we start, the better. With this course, exam preparation, very gradual, very indirect. Your students will not even notice that it starts in year 5. And step by step, they will be much, much better prepared for the bar, ZNO, any international language exam which they might want to take in future. So what is exam prep? Well, as such, so it means from time to time to introduce different exam task types in class and teach students how to handle them. Secondly, exam tips. Very simple, very applicable, very student-friendly. So, and there is a nice collection of wonderful, easy to remember exam tips in Wider World. I'll show you some a bit later. And finally, we're speaking about younger teenagers, years 5, 6, 7. They don't care much yet about ZNO, right? It's still too far away, so it must be fun. I'll show you just a couple of pages which prepare students for ZNO, but students will not even notice that, from Wider World. Again, an example from level 2. A wonderful picture, camping. Do you like camping? I do. Looking forward for the weather to get better, to get outside somewhere in the wild. Okay, now let's imagine it happens, a bad day camping. Okay, it happens. Different things happen. So here is a story from Eric, a very short story from a guy called Eric who went camping with his sister and everything went wrong. Okay, so I will show you the story. Your task will be to help me with the pictures. There will be some little pictures illustrating each episode. You will tell me which picture matches the accident. All right, let's try. So I'm Eric. Last week I went camping with my sister, Athie. Unfortunately, everything went wrong. Number 1, first, we left our food in the sun and it went off. So you think it's B, right? So bananas jumping down to the ground and running away, going off, right? Or A, with some flies, just over food. So is it A or B? Food going off. We'll come back to that later. So it's not the end. Troubles continue. So secondly, we picked, Eric says, then I picked up an illness, felt terrible, so we decided to go home. Number 2, is it A or B? I love this picture. B, you see Eric picking up a small virus. So A or B, I don't know. We'll see. But the pictures are funny. And finally, we got a lift from a farmer on a tractor. Very funny. But while we were going home, my sister said it was all my fault and we fell out. Again, number 3, is it A or is it B? So I see it's like most of you say B. So falling out means having an argument, not falling down, right? Thank you very much. Thank you. You're great students, very smart, very, very good. Well, this is a very interesting and fun introduction which sets this cartoon story sets the context for the use of English lesson in wider world. So each level contains separate lessons which are marked English in use, which actually prepare students for one of the 4 parts of the in English called use of English. So each lesson of such type starts with a wonderful, funny context. Usually, this cartoon story, students love that. Well, it's fun. And then we have language work, for example, in, the English in use lessons in wider world. They usually cover issues which are usually these tricky things tested later in the use of English part, like phrasal verbs or relative pronouns, which are a big problem. Well, it appears later. Okay, so lots of nice practice for students. For example, in this only one task, and they cover lots of wonderful phrasal words like verbs: find out, take up a sport, give up, go on, in the meaning of happening. Can you help me with number 5, please? So number 5, can you give me £10 to my phone, please, ma'am? Поповнете, ми кажемо, put money in, but the phrasal verb, which we need, top up, thank you, Olga, thank you, yeah, to top up my phone, and so on. Get on, hang out, check out, look after, so lots of nice phrasal verbs. I've just seen a question. Somebody asked me to give the correct answers to that story. I'm sorry. I thought I've just covered that. Of course, all the answers are B. All the answers are A's. So the B is the funny side of the story. It's like more direct. Food going off means so food is spoiled. So it's not eatable any longer. So it's picture A. Okay, so here the second fact again. So pick up an illness, просто захворів. It has nothing to do with physically picking up a virus. Okay, so it's picture A. And finally, of course, falling out means having an argument. You see here in picture A, they just turned away from each other and stopped talking. It's not falling down. So the answers are all A's. Okay, fine. So back to phrasal verbs. So lots of practice, lots of phrasal verbs, plus exam practice. It's not labeled here like, now guys, exam prep. No, but me as a teacher, I see that here it comes a short gapped text. Actually something very, very similar to what they will have later in the use of English part, if you remember what it looks like, right? So short gap text, usually with some options to choose from, but again, kids start getting ready for this task type as early as, year 6 at school. Another example, we're speaking about exam prep, how wonderfully it's incorporated into different just lessons of this course. Writing. Writing lessons are very well structured. There is always an easy to remember model. We study the structure of this letter type, and then there is this writing task, and just have a look at what writing tasks in wider world are like. They look very similar to what they will later have in the north. So here is a situation. You're on holiday at a popular tourist resort. Write a postcard to your friend, and then we have some bullet points. Write about this, the place, the weather, what you've done, your plans, include an ending. So it means they start thinking how to approach a writing task, in year 5 and year 6, which is great. You can easily, being a teacher, you can easily turn this task into even more exam task. It's very simple. You just set a time limit, ask your students to do it in class. You look together, you analyze the tasks. They can even underline keywords in the task together with you. You set a time limit, like guys, 30 minutes, and you set a word limit. Write not less than 90 words. Off they go. And that's actually, they will not know about that, you will. That's exam preparation, which you've already started with your class. And we can continue, same with reading lessons. Each reading lesson contains 100% some kind of exam task. Like here, for example, it's matching headings to paragraphs. There is an extra heading, something very simple, similar to what they will later have in the NO. Or listening lessons. Okay, lots of pre, while, post listening, but one exam task for sure. Here, doesn't it look very familiar? So multiple choice, listen to some short recordings, make a choice, choose one out of three options. So absolutely identical to what they will later have in the NO. However, apart from just all those exam tasks in the book, like in the units, at the end of each level, there is a separate section which is called exam time. And that's what I like a lot. Just have a look what it looks like. We have a collection of like spreads which contain only exam prep tasks. So all skills are covered. There are exam time pages to cover reading, listening, writing, speaking, and just a brief, I just couldn't help showing it to you. Have a look here, listen again, listening to short conversations and see what multiple choice with pictures. And again, this is something which is identical to what they will have in the NO. If you have seen the NO listening part tasks, okay, so a part of it is a multiple choice with pictures. Sometimes pictures are strange. It's done to make it more challenging for students. So here actually is when your students start getting ready for this part of the NO, year 5 at school, the exam time sections, and as I've already mentioned, wonderful exam tips. Very simple and easy to remember. Have a look, just the first one. Don't decide on your answer before you hear the whole conversation. Sometimes the correct answer is at the end. It's very simple, easy, and it's true because I know, there are course books which contain exam tips, but it's impossible to understand them, and sometimes they're not applicable at all. It's like you read them and you forget them, the second moment. So here all exam tips are very easy to remember and student friendly, and that's again what I like about Wider World. So exam prep, just keep that in mind. The earlier we start, the better. And with this resource, Wider World is a very reliable resource in terms of getting your students gradually ready for all their future exams, state or international language exams. And finally, the third feature, I will very briefly show you something which I love about Wider World. It's vocabulary program. So there is, I'm not going to speak for a long time about that. So it's just the vocabulary is great. There is a lot of vocab. It's Wider World has got a very intensive vocabulary program. So the amount of vocab in each unit, the way it's presented in almost every lesson of the unit. So there are separate vocabulary lessons. However, even in grammar lessons, in reading lessons, in the listening lessons, there will always be a new portion of phrases, collocations mostly, because Wider World usually works with collocations, which is great. Just to give you a feeling of what vocabulary work in Wider World is like, let's have a look at one unit. We will just briefly leaf through the unit. I'll show you the amount of vocab. This is Preston Jones, a nice teenager, and he's got a very interesting collection. Can you guess what he collects? Any ideas here? Interesting objects? He's too old to collect toys, right? How models? Toys. Looks like toy. Flash drives. Thank you. Perfect. Great. Yes. Actually, they are memory sticks or pen drives. Actually, there are such there are such unusual memory sticks. I think they're cool, and well, people collect them. Actually, this boy collects them. Actually, again, back to authenticity. That's how a unit on new technology starts in Wider World Level 2. So there will be lots of vocab on technology all the way through the unit. This is the very first page, very attractive. And this intro text just sets the context. It contains lots of words. So target vocabulary is embedded into this text, but in a very interesting context, right? USB gadgets, plug into, charge, USB port, keyboard, pen drive, joystick, and so on. Okay, so just a wonderful start. And then we start working, practicing and producing all that vocab. So vocabulary boxes, which present target vocab. One of my favorite sections in Wider World called Word Friends, which introduces chunks, collocations, useful phrases. And they're scattered all the way through the unit, not only vocabulary lessons. Watch out! Draws your student attention to some tricky language moments, like here, online can be an adjective and sometimes an adverb. Okay, and again, this is level 2, year 6. It means, well, the level, the approach, right? To, well, vocab here. We turn the page. It's a grammar lesson. There is a wonderful video. You see this brother and sister having an argument about a phone. However, even here in their conversation, do you recognize one of those phrasal verbs? Lee, says the guy, I forgot to top up my phone yesterday. So that's why, sorry, yes, I took your phone for 5 minutes. Don't be angry with me. Okay, so we continue, dwelling on the same topic of new technology. We turn the page, again, reading lesson. Some phrases are highlighted. Switch on tablet. Check out Facebook page. Look for information on Wikipedia. We turn the page, another grammar lesson, more word friends, more nice phrases. Have a look, just couldn't help showing you this text. It's a grammar lesson. Just have a look at all those nice phrases the text contains. Okay, text somebody, follow somebody on Twitter, check Facebook page, switch on, switch off, my battery dies, charge battery, addicted to my phone. And this is a grammar lesson. We keep like accumulating all this vocabulary belonging to the topic of new technology. Yet another lesson, same unit, new technology, listening, just have a look, view videos, download, upload, share videos, search the web, chat online, click on links. So we keep adding and adding, so expanding our students' vocabulary, which is great. Speaking lesson, even more great phrases. My computer crashed. Computer got a virus. Internet connection download. Battery again, oh, my phone died. Wonderful. And finally, this one is just great. Any ideas what this unusual places, how are they connected with technology? I've got here a picture of the moon, the North Pole, and Mountain Everest. Any ideas? So it's like the final lesson of the unit on new technology. Actually, I was surprised myself. So actually, there is a text at the end of the unit, strange places around the world where you can find Wi-Fi. And well, strangely enough, I didn't know it. So it appears that, yeah, the moon, Mount Everest, North Pole, well, London Black Caps, of course. So these are some of the places, unusual places where you would not expect to have access to Wi-Fi, but it's there. So as I've already mentioned, well, before, every unit in Wider World finishes with a wonderful BBC Culture spread, which contains BBC Culture videos. Actually, it's 3 lessons. A reading lesson, it's a separate proper reading lesson, a BBC video lesson, and if you wish, you can have the 3rd lesson purely based on project work, again, connected to what they've seen, like, and read about. Okay, it was just a brief look at how intensive the vocabulary program of Wider World is. That's why actually we recommend this course for more intensive language study if you want to cover one level of Wider World in one academic year. So ideally, you should have 5 lessons of English a week. So 4, well, minimum probably, 5 or more, the best. Or you would have to extend one book for like longer than 1 year, for maybe a year and a half, because there is a lot to learn, a lot to practice, and a lot to produce, taking into consideration all the, well, video content. One more thing that's important. So all students have access to all videos. So even if it happens so that you can't you can't watch a video with your students in class, it can be set as homework, because they will all have this wonderful scratch code in their workbooks, and they can watch videos from home. No problems with that. Fine, so those were just 3 of the features which I find particularly important, especially when it comes to choosing the best possible resource for teaching teenagers, younger teenagers. I've looked at the aspects of authenticity in Wider World, exam preparation, which I believe is important, though we don't usually think about this for years 5 or 6 at school, but I think that's important, and vocabulary. There is much more which I would like to share about Wider World, probably not today. All right, before actually we look at the secret promo code, which I've promised at the start, I remember that. I will now give you the secret information, which will give you a 25% discount. A brief reminder that, of course, for sure, as with most Pearson resources, you can use Wider World with an interactive online workbook. Your students, your teenage students will love that a lot. Again, try to learn more, try to use Lab. Now you have this chance. So my colleagues will give you more information about how to try Lab in the email. So do check your mailboxes. You'll get more information about that in the email.